Welcome to Biff's Mystery Theater. I have many tales to tell you. Ghost stories, murder stories, and tales that will make your bones chill. Join me, won't you? For Theater of the Mind, where you always have the best seat in the house. Now close your eyes and turn off the lights.
Now, the Roma Wine Company of Fresno, California presents Suspense. Tonight, Roma Wines bring you the distinguished actor Mr. J. Carroll Nash as star in Footfalls, a suspense play produced, edited, and directed by William Spear. Suspense is presented for your enjoyment by Roma Wines. That's R-O-M-A, Roma Wines. Those excellent California wines that can add so much pleasantness to the way you live, to your happiness in entertaining guests, to your enjoyment of everyday meals. Yes, right now a glassful would be very pleasant, as Roma Wines bring you a remarkable tale of suspense. And with the drama called Footfalls, and with the performance of Mr. J. Carroll Nash, Roma Wines hope indeed to keep you in suspense.
How you feeling, Bose?
Good, Charlie. I feel good for a man who is going to die.
Oh, don't be silly. What do you want to talk that way for?
Oh, it is true. I know. But I do not feel bad. I ask you to come here only because I feel like talking a little while. You mind if I talk a little while, Charlie?
Sure. You talk as much as you want to.
Charlie Rugg. All these years a cop, but a good cop and a good friend.
You know I'm your friend, Bose.
Yes, I know it. All these years I knew it. All those years when I keep silent, waiting to kill a man. There are not many people now who still remember my Manuel. But you remember, even when he was a little boy. Yes, perhaps it was true. I was too fond, too easy on him after his mother died. But it was only because he was not so strong. And he was a good boy. Always Manuel was a good boy. You were like the others too, Charlie, the way you thought of him. But you, I know it was because you were afraid he would bring sorrow to all boys. I even remember the first time you were afraid, when he was just a little fellow.
Papa?
Yes, Manuel?
What are you doing?
What am I doing? Well, what I always do. I work. I mend shoes.
How do you?
What kind of questions do you ask me? How do I? You see, ever since you were a little baby, how I do. With my knife, my hammer, with the little nails.
But how can you work when you can't see?
Well, why do I have need to see when I have my hands and my ears?
Papa, what is it like to be blind?
Oh, it is not like anything. What I touch with my hands, what I hear with my ears, those things I see with my mind as well as you do with your eyes. Oh, it is nothing to be blind. Good morning, Miss Evans.
Good morning, Boaz. Hello, Manuel.
Hello. Papa, is it really true that you can tell everybody by their footsteps?
Oh, of course. Didn't you see just then?
And you really can't see them at all? Not even a little bit?
Not even a little bit. To me, a footstep is as to you a face or a voice. Each one is different. That is how I know people and remember them, even for many years.
All right. Tell me who's coming down the street now. But you mustn't look.
Oh, somebody is coming now. Well, well. That is the easiest of all, Manuel. That is our policeman, Mr. Rugg. Now, am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hello, Charlie. You come for your shoes?
No, just passing by. But I'll pick them up if they're ready.
Well, not yet, Charlie. But you come back this afternoon, then they will be ready.
Papa, can I have a nickel?
Always a piece for the pocket, huh? Here's what I have. Now, you take a nickel out, huh?
Thanks, Papa.
Here, you young scamp.
Let me go.
Well, what is it?
It wasn't a nickel he took. It was $50.
Well, that was only a mistake. Huh, Manuel? You keep the $50. Now, go on, run along.
Thanks, Papa. Goodbye.
I didn't mean to butt in between you and your young one, Bose, but I thought maybe you didn't...
That I did not know. Oh, I knew. But Manuel, he needs things now, and he is not like other boys. Well, he's not so strong.
Yeah, it's none of my business, but spare the rod, you know.
He is a good boy. My Manuel is always a good boy. So it was like that through the years, a quiet life, my work, my shop, my house behind the shop, a quiet life until that day he came. My Manuel, he was a big boy now, almost a man. Still, he was not strong. I remember that day, it was evening, and Manuel had just come into the shop. I knew what he wanted.
Hello, Pop.
Oh, hello, Manuel. Well, have a good day today?
Sure, pretty good.
So, well, what were you doing today?
Oh, just walking around and thinking.
Thinking? Uh-huh. Thinking about what?
Just about people and things.
They pay much for that kind of work, Manuel?
You want me to get a job, Pop?
Oh, Manuel, no. You do that when you want to. To work is good, but to think is good, too.
You're a swell guy, Pop.
Well, now, maybe a piece for the pocket, huh?
Well...
$5, 10 maybe?
If it's all right.
Sure. Here you are. Huh? There's a stranger coming down our street. You hear?
Not the way you do, Pop.
Why, he's stopping at our door, I think.
Well, I think I'll be going, Pop.
Yes, Manuel. Good night.
Good night, Pop.
Mr. Negro? Mr. Boaz Negro?
Yes?
I'm a stranger in town, Mr. Negro, and I understand...
Yes, I know.
What? What was that you said?
Oh, nothing. I was merely thinking out loud. Please continue, Mr.
Wood. Campbell Wood.
Wood. Mr. Campbell Wood. Uh-huh.
Well, as I was saying, I'm a stranger in town, and I was told down at the depot that you had a room to rent.
Well, matter of fact, I have.
Well, I'm just starting at a new job in the bank, and I can't afford to pay too much, but...
I always like to help a young fellow to get a start in life. How would $5 a week suit you, Mr. Wood? Oh, that is if you like the room, of course.
That'd be just fine, Mr. Negro. Now, if I could see the room?
So you are making your start in life, eh, Mr. Wood?
Well, I hope so, Mr. Negro.
You know, I can tell something about you, Mr. Wood, by your voice, but even more by your footsteps.
My footsteps?
That is a sort of specialty of mine, yes? I think you will, as they say, go places, Mr. Wood.
Well, I'll certainly try.
Oh, yes, you will, Mr. Wood. Very definitely you will go places. Yes, and I was right. He did go places, maybe even a little too fast, and there was talk. That fine young Mr. Wood who lived with old Boaz Negro, they said, what a contrast to that son, that Manuel, who did nothing. Then that night when he came home late. Oh, good evening, Mr. Wood. You are out rather late tonight.
Yes, I had to attend a special Board of Trade meeting.
And you're up rather late tonight yourself.
Yes, I had to attend to my special shoes.
Mr. Boaz, I'd like to speak to you.
Well, do you need my permission?
Well, this affair is none of my business.
Well, go on.
Well, darn it, I hate to see a hard-working man like yourself support a lazy son.
Oh.
Why doesn't he get himself a job?
You know my Manuel is not strong.
Well, that's what I've heard you tell your friends, but he doesn't appear undernourished to me.
Well, really, Mr. Wood, my Manuel is not too strong.
Well, couldn't he learn your trade, then?
Shoemaking? Well, it may be good enough for a blind man, but for Manuel...
Well, I'm getting a bit tired, so
I guess I'll be going upstairs. Oh, darn it! Getting as careless as a newborn baby. Now, let me see. Oh, dear. Gee whiz. Oh, I'm glad it's all here. I'm responsible, you know.
Responsible for what?
Why, for the gold I have in this sack. It's government money for the breakwater project.
Indeed, but why have you...
I know what you're thinking, Mr. Negro, but I'm keeping the money for the bank until tomorrow morning. You see, too many people in town know that we received the funds, and I don't trust that old safe we have down at the bank.
Well, very, very clever, Mr. Woods. So you take the money home for you with safekeeping, and nobody is any wiser. Very clever.
I rather think so myself. I'm glad I dropped the sack in front of you, Mr. Negro, because I know I can trust you as far as, well, as far as I can trust myself.
Well, that is a fine compliment for an old cobbler, Mr. Wood.
Well, I'm going upstairs now. Remember, I have your word.
Yes, you have my word.
What's that?
Oh, well, a mouse, I suppose. I will have to set a trap.
Manuel home?
No, Mr. Wood. He is not here. Good night. That was the first time I was frightened. That was the first time I ever thought of such a thing. Manuel was home, and he has heard everything I thought. Manuel has heard the tinkle of gold. The tinkle of gold. Manuel.
Yes, Pop?
Did you hear, my boy?
Yes, I heard, Pop.
You won't say anything.
Why should I?
You are a good boy, Manuel. Are you short of money? Perhaps $10?
Thanks, Pop, but I don't need it now.
Well, are you sure, Manuel? A $5 or a $10?
Not now, Pop.
Some other time, huh?
Sure, Pop. Sure, some other time.
Some other time. My Manuel was a good boy. Yes, but I wished he did not know about the money. I tried to return to my work, but I could not. And suddenly I knew that I was listening. First I heard footsteps there in the house behind the shop. The footsteps prowling here and there, halting, advancing again. Then others pacing back and forth, back and forth. A door opened. A voice.
Casino or gin rummy?
Sure, why not?
The steps again. The door closing. And then silence. Oh, how I wished to know what that silence meant. And yet, though I wished to know stronger in me than that, I wished not to know. It was cold, and I pulled my old coat around me, still listening to the silence. A little later, I thought I heard a little sound like the rustling of the wind outside my shop. But I could not tell. And then, perhaps I dozed there in my chair. Smoke! Yes! There's fire in my house! Fire! Help! Fire! 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 The rest was like a nightmare, because I knew. Even as they poked and searched through the ashes of my house, I knew.
Hey, look here.
A body. A man's body.
Yeah, what's left of it.
Oh, a dreadful accident.
It wasn't an accident.
Well, why not? A guy can fall asleep with his clothes on.
But this guy's got his skull smashed in. And that makes it murder.
Suspense, Roma Wines are bringing you a star, Mr. J. Carroll Nash, whom you've heard in the first act of Footfalls by Wilbur Daniel Steele, which is Roma Wines' presentation tonight of Suspense.
Between the acts of Suspense, this is Truman Bradley for Roma Wines. Elsa Maxwell's ideas on gracious entertaining are followed by women all over America. The other day, she said this about Roma wine. One of my favorite wines is distinguished Roma California Sherry, a glorious golden amber wine, delightfully light and nut-like in taste. Roma Sherry is ideal for any occasion, before dinner with appetizers, or during the friendly evening hours. Yes, good Roma Sherry, like all Roma wines, is always delicious, unvaryingly good. The goodness of carefully selected grapes, brought slowly to perfection in California's choicest vineyards, gently pressed, then unhurriedly guided to flavor richness by Roma's ancient winemaking skill. Yet all this goodness is yours for only pennies a glass. Remember, because of uniformly fine quality at reasonable cost, more Americans enjoy Roma than any other wine. R-O-M-A, Roma Wines.
And now, Roma Wines bring back to our Hollywood soundstage J. Carroll Nash, who, in the character of Boaz Negro, the blind cobbler, continues a narrative well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Very kind of you to listen, Charlie. I feel suddenly so old. I feel that it is right for me to tell about it because sometime tonight I am going to go. Oh, but that nightmare day when the body was found in the ashes of my house, when I was forced with my heart breaking to agree with you that a dreadful crime had been committed. You remember, Charlie? You came to me here and...
Listen, Bose. We've identified the body every way there is. The clothes, the cufflinks, the watch they gave him at the bank. You know that. And the money's gone.
Yes.
All right, then. For the 100th time, where is Manuel? Where is Manuel?
And for the 100th time, I do not know.
Come on, Bose. Quit stalling. Where is he?
I am not stalling. I don't know, I tell you.
Oh, all right. When did you see him last?
After supper. He was in the shop.
You knew about the government money, Bose.
Yes.
And Manuel, he knew too? Manuel knew?
Yes.
I see. Just as I thought.
Well, you must not think those things about my Manuel, Chief. He is a good boy.
What happened after you saw Manuel?
Nothing. He went into sleep. I stayed in the shop and worked.
I see. Did you hear anything, Bose?
Yes, I heard the men moving about.
What men?
Mr. Wood upstairs and my son down here.
Ah, then Manuel wasn't asleep.
No, he was not asleep.
Go on.
A while later, the noises stopped and...
We must know everything, Bose.
Well, a while later, Mr. Wood called down to Manuel and asked him if he cared to come upstairs and play cards with him.
You heard him ask that?
Yes.
Are you sure it wasn't Manuel who asked Mr. Wood?
It is as I said. I do not lie to you.
All right, all right. Did Manuel go up to Mr. Wood's room?
Yes, he went up.
I see. Now, did you hear anything else after that?
No, nothing.
Nothing, hmm? Well?
There is something else. Sometime during the night, I thought I heard something, footfalls perhaps, stealing past my shop.
I see. That you wouldn't swear in court that you heard them?
No, not in court or here in my shop. I cannot swear to something I am not sure of.
Bose, you're a good man. We don't want to cause any trouble, but you understand, a man has been murdered, government funds are missing, and your son is gone. What else can we think? As far as I'm concerned, it's an open and shut case. I've issued a warrant for Manuel's arrest.
No, you cannot.
Yes. And if you know where he is, it'll go easier for him if you pass on that information.
I've told you all I wish to tell.
All right, be stubborn.
Stubborn? Do you wish me to dance a jig? I tell the truth and you do not believe me. What more can I do?
Gosh, put yourself in my place, Bose. This is serious business.
And will you change places with me? I have lost everything, my house, even my honor, my only son.
Well, I'm sorry.
Someday that murderer will return to the place of his crime, and when he does, I shall be waiting for him. Yes, then I will show you, for I shall be waiting for him.
To questions, I gave no answer. To threats, I gave no heed. I scarcely heard them, for my ears were deaf to all sounds save one. The sound of footfalls. The footsteps of a murderer. Patiently as the weeks, the months, then the years moved by, I listened. For 3 years I listened, wondering only when they would come. For 3 years more I wondered if they would come. Only the last 3 years was I troubled by the growing of a terrible doubt. Suppose the steps had come and gone and I had not heard. Suppose I were to make a mistake. Suppose my ears should fail me and I could not remember. Could not remember. From that first hour of doubt, every waking moment, yes, even in my dreams, I lived in a nightmare of echoing, jumbled footsteps. Footsteps slow and halting, footsteps quick and running, pounding heavy footsteps, and those light as a cat's tread, more, faster, footsteps, footsteps. It was the evening of the winter holidays, the Portuguese festival of Menunheso. Christ was born again in 100 mangers and 100 tiny altars. There was cake and wine and song, and in all the houses there were lights, even in my shop, the shop of Boaz Negro. A customer had just called for his shoes and gone out again. Now I was thinking of putting out those lights. I reached up to turn the switch, then stopped. Someone had entered the shop. The newcomer stood by the closed door. I wondered why I had not heard the footfalls leading into the shop.
Yes, what can I do for you?
Well, I don't know. To tell the truth...
You'll have to come nearer, please. I am a little deaf.
Oh, all right. Can you hear me now?
Fine, just fine.
I have a pair of expensive boots with me, and they're in need of repair. Could you fix them?
I think so, if you'd care to leave them with me.
Well, darn it, I haven't got them with me now. I just thought, could I look around a bit? Look around?
Well, you are welcome, but I assure you there is not much interest in a poor cobbler shop.
Well, that may be true, but the lights. Put on these lights. I can't see. Why did you turn them off?
I can see much better in the dark.
You're crazy. You can't see at all.
How did you know?
Put on those lights.
Stay where you are. I can hear every move.
What are you going to do? Keep away from me. Don't touch me. No!
Murderer. I have waited 9 years. I have lived for this day. Murderer. Then as he died, suddenly I realized this man that I had killed has a beard. A full beard over his face, over his throat where my fingers strangled him. Could have been wrong, but no, the footsteps I was certain of. Then perhaps others would not know him for who he was. If suddenly I knew what I must do. That his last cries had been heard, I knew, for I could hear the crowd gathering outside my locked door. But I set about my task as carefully as though he had been alive. With a sure, unhurried touch, I continued at my work, even as you battered at the door.
All right, stand back, all of you. Stand back.
There now.
Come on, Martin.
Yeah, all right.
Lord only knows what we will find in here. Bose! Dark as pitch. Bose, where are you? Put on the lights, Martin.
I can't find... Oh, here it is, Chief.
Yeah, that's much better. Bose. Bose, what are you doing there on the floor? Bose, you all right?
Chief, he's shaving someone.
Bose, what are you doing there?
It's all right, Charlie. I'm through. I'm through. Now, tell me, is it that murderer?
This guy on the floor is dead, Chief. Strangled.
Tell me, is it that murderer? Manuel, Bose? You mean Manuel? Not Manuel. I told you my Manuel was a good boy. But I ask you, is it that murderer?
Well, Good Lord.
What's up, Chief?
That man on the floor. It's Campbell Wood. The bank fellow we thought was burned.
Burned? Him burned? No, it was my boy that was burned. That murderer killed my boy. He put his clothes on him and set fire to my house. I knew that all the time.
Why didn't you tell us all this before?
And have you laugh in my face? Could I tell you that I thought those footfalls moving along the side of the shop belonged to Mr. Wood? A blind man with crazy ideas, you would say. Could I stop him and ask where he was going? If I were not blind, he would have killed me too. No, it was not my son that ran away. It was this murderer all the time. But I told you he'd come back. And I killed him. I showed you. Now you can hang me for my crime.
You remember, don't you, Charlie? And you did not even bother to arrest me. Perhaps you did not believe old Boaz had such strength in his hands, huh?
He died of heart failure.
Did he? Well, so be it. But you believe now that old Boaz has no trouble with these ears, huh? Ah, yes, I hear. I hear everything. Even a voice close in my ear.
Hello, Pop. It's Manuel.
Yes. Yes, I hear. Oh, Manuel. How are things with you, Manuel?
Fine, Pop. Fine.
You need a little money? A $5, perhaps? A $10?
No thanks, Pop. Not now.
Some other time.
Pop. I'm waiting for you, Pop.
Yes, I know you are waiting. And I am glad to come with you. My Manuel is a good boy.
And so closes Footfalls, in which Roma Wines have brought you J. Carrol Naish as star of tonight's study in Suspense.
This is Truman Bradley with a word for Roma Wines, the sponsor of Suspense. July, one of the warmest months, calls for tall, frosty, iced drinks. And famous hostess Elsa Maxwell recently said, "I've discovered the perfect hot weather drink, wonderfully cooling and refreshing, one that guests really go for. I mean Roma Wine and Soda, made with distinguished Roma California Burgundy or Sauterne. Yes, Roma Wine and Soda is simple to prepare. Half-fill tall glasses with Roma Burgundy or Sauterne. Add ice cubes, sparkling water, and a bit of sugar. And for a decorative touch, garnish with cherries or fruit. And be sure to use Roma Wine, always uniformly good, yet costs only pennies a glass. So you can serve it often. And the next time you use vermouth, choose Roma vermouth, sweet or dry. Zestful, full-flavored Roma vermouth is blended and developed with all the traditional wine-making skill of Roma wineries, is made and bottled in the heart of California's famous vineyards, yet surprisingly low-priced. Try Roma vermouth soon, won't you?"
J. Carrol Naish appeared through the courtesy of Paramount Pictures and is currently being seen in their production, A Medal for Benny. Next Thursday, same time, you will hear Bonita Granville as star of Suspense.
Presented by Roma Wines. R-O-M-A. Made in California for enjoyment throughout the world. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Yes, Roma wines taste better because only Roma selects from the world's greatest wine reserves for your pleasure. And now, Roma Wines, R-O-M-A. Roma Wines present
Suspense. Tonight, Roma Wines bring you Miss Ann Baxter in Always Room at the Top, a suspense play produced, edited, and directed for Roma Wines by William Spear.
Suspense, radio's outstanding theater of thrills, is presented for your enjoyment by Roma Wines. That's R-O-M-A, Roma Wines. Those better-tasting California wines enjoyed by more Americans than any other wine. For friendly entertaining, for delightful dining. Yes, right now, a glassful would be very pleasant as Roma Wines bring you Ann Baxter in a remarkable tale of
Suspense.
Reception. Yes, she is, Miss Thornton. Very well, Miss Thornton. I'll have her come in. Miss Brandt.
Yes?
Miss Thornton will see you now. Large corner office at the end of the hall.
Thank you. Jean Thornton was a tall, square-shouldered blonde with high cheekbones and a good figure, and nervous as a cat. More than that, I hadn't been in her office 5 minutes before I knew that she was afraid of something. Her boss, the responsibilities of her job, something. I couldn't understand it. She was art director of William J. Farrell & Company, one of the best advertising agencies in town. She had everything I wanted, professionally and a couple of other ways. And yet she was afraid. I couldn't understand it. Then?
Yes, these are quite good. Quite good, Miss...
Brandt. Helen Brandt.
Yes, Miss Brandt. Quite good. But, cigarette.
Thanks. Oh, how cute.
Silly thing. Mr. Farrell sent it to me from Mexico. Where else in the world would anybody have the patience to sit down and put together a musical cigarette case? But, as I was saying... what was I saying? Oh, yes. Yes, these are really very good layouts, Miss Brandt. I like them, but I don't quite see how we can use you just now.
You said that before, Miss Thornton.
Yes, so I did. Well...
Look, Miss Thornton, I don't need the job. I'm not one of those desperate people that's come in to cry on your shoulder. I have a job at Maxfield & Ellis, but they're stupid there. I'm not getting any place. In a firm like this, where people have imagination, you have a chance. That's all I want, a chance.
So do a lot of other people, Miss Brandt.
Well, I'm not a lot of other people. I think I've got ability, and you know it. Commercial ability. I think I could be professional.
Yes. Well, if there's an opening, we'll get in touch with you.
You'll get in touch. I know what that means. I've been given the brush off by experts.
That will be all, Miss Brandt.
But I'm sick of being brushed off. I've got ability, as much as you have and maybe more, and I'll show you.
Miss Brandt, will you leave my office, or shall I have you thrown out?
All right, Miss Thornton. Good day. Of course, that would be the last time I'd ever lay eyes on Jean Thornton. That's what I thought. I went back to my office and worked most of the night, catching up on my own stuff, doing a little extra that I was peddling around town. I was standing on the sidewalk, kidding with a night elevator man, while I waited for a cab, and looking up at the tower against the early morning sky. That dark tower, 36 floors above the street, and 3 blocks up the avenue, where the William J. Farrell Agency had their offices, and where I'd have given my right arm to be working.
You'll miss all your beauty sleep working this late, Miss Brandt.
Now, Charlie, who says I need beauty sleep?
Oh, you don't.
I like to work at night. It's quiet. Think of all the sunrises I see. Look at that sky.
Yeah, it's going to be a nice day, I guess. Look!
I saw the body falling and the scream came to us at the same moment. We stood there frozen, horrified, fascinated.
Oh, Lord. I wish I hadn't seen that.
Charlie, that was someone from the Farrell Agency.
Whoever it was, poor devil.
A woman.
Oh, wait, Miss Brandt. I wouldn't go up there. Miss Brandt.
Even by the time I got there, a patrol car had appeared out of nowhere, the way they will in this town. and the usual crowd of early birds and night owls standing around gawking. They were trying to cover it up with a blanket.
All right, stand back. Stand back there.
Who is it, you know?
You couldn't tell anyway.
A woman. I wanted to look, but I couldn't. A cop was picking up stuff that had rolled out of a handbag into the street, going through it methodically, opening things up. And then I heard it, and I didn't have to look. I knew.
Please, I tell you, I don't know when Mr. Farrell's coming in. I don't know.
You wouldn't try to kid the press, would you, sister?
You might as well tell us because we'll just sit here anyway until...
Hey, there he is now.
Mr. Farrell, I'm from the news. I'd like to know if...
Boys, please, I can't tell you anything now.
Mr. Farrell, I'm Helen Brandt.
Mr. Farrell, my people would like to know if Miss Thornton had been...
Get out of that door now, please, get out of here, all of you, get out. I told you I can't talk to any reporters. Now give me a few
I'm not
minutes.
a reporter, Mr. Farrell. I'm Helen Brandt. I'm art director of a small advertising agency, but I've got some samples here and... Mr. Farrell, please, just look at these. You're going to have a new art director.
What did you say?
Sure, you're shocked. But it can't hurt her. And I've been trying to see you for months, and now you're on a spot, and if you just look...
Take those things out of my face and get out of here.
Just look at them first. That's all I ask.
All I ask is that you... Well...
And, this one, for Parker's shoes. I've followed Miss Thornton's general ideas, but I've added, well, that.
Mm-hmm.
They're good, Mr. Farrell. And if you say they aren't...
All right, they're good. They're very good. But if you think I'd hire a woman who hasn't any more decency than to barge in here at a time like this and try to push...
Decency? What's decency got to do with it? Do you need an art director or a Sunday school teacher?
Look, Mr. Farrell, now, if you don't mind, my people want to know what Miss Thornton was doing in her office at 5 o'clock this morning.
She must have been working all night on the new Parker layouts. They have to be out by... They have to be out by 3 this afternoon.
Working all night. Maybe went to the window for fresh air, tired, got dizzy.
Look, Miss...
Brandt. Helen Brandt.
Miss Brandt. Miss Brandt, I think you're one of the most despicable women I've ever had the misfortune to meet. But I've got a very big job to get out this afternoon. My assistant art director's homesick, and by the time I interview
Thanks,
these...
Mr. Farrell.
You can arrange the details with my secretary in there. And frankly, the less I have to do with you myself, the better I'll like it.
I think you'll change your mind about that, Mr. Farrell.
Now, Mr. Farrell, if
All
you
right,
wouldn't mind, we know things are tough and you don't want to tell us, but...
Yes?
Are you,
Mr. Farrell's secretary, yes.
Oh, well, I'm Helen Brandt.
Marie Harris, how do you do?
How do you do? I'm taking Miss Thornton's place.
Taking Miss Thornton's place, I see.
Yes, temporarily.
Well, you're not one to let the grass grow under your feet, are you, my dear?
Mr. Farrell said I could arrange the details with you.
To be sure. I expect you'd better make out one of our regular employment forms.
Oh, thank you.
Temporarily, you said.
Yes.
Still, doesn't it feel a bit odd to be filling a dead woman's shoes that are hardly cold, so to speak?
I don't see anything so odd about it, Miss Harris. Somebody would have to.
No, of course you wouldn't.
By previous experience, does it mean just in the advertising business?
Any experience that might be applicable. Has occurred to you, I suppose, Miss Brandt, that when someone like Miss Thornton is cut off in mid-career, so to speak, there's usually a reason for it?
They say it was an accident.
An accident, do they?
Oh, will this be all right, Miss Harris?
Yes, that'll do. Of course, there's always the possibility of suicide. I suppose you've thought of that.
I suppose it might have been. Will you show me my office, please?
Certainly, this way. You might as well have the dead woman's, that is, Miss Thornton's office. And, of course, there is another possibility. Isn't there?
What other possibility?
The possibility of murder.
Murder?
Why, yes. Here's your office, Miss Brandt. If you need anything, just call me. I want to make you as comfortable as possible under the circumstances.
For suspense, Roma Wines are bringing you Ann Baxter in Always Room at the Top. Roma Wines' presentation tonight in radio's outstanding theater of thrills, Suspense.
Between the acts of Suspense, this is Ken Niles for Roma Wines. Next time you buy wine, remember, more Americans enjoy Roma than any other wine. Yes, Roma wine is America's first choice because there's an important difference in Roma wine. A difference in fuller bouquet, richer body, better taste. A difference that means more enjoyment, more pleasure for you and your guests. To bring you wines that are superior, that taste better, Roma starts with California's choicest grapes. Then Roma master vintners, with America's finest winemaking resources, guide this choice grape treasure unhurriedly to tempting taste perfection. Later, along with Roma wines of years before, these cuvées await selection from the world's greatest reserves of fine wines for your pleasure. That's what makes the difference in Roma wines. That's why Roma wines taste better every time. So for your best buy in good taste, insist on Roma wine. R-O-M-A. Roma, the greatest name in wine.
And now, Roma Wines bring back to our Hollywood soundstage Ann Baxter as Helen Brandt, with Kathy Lewis as Marie and Wally Mayer as Bill Farrell in Always Room at the Top, a tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
I'd met Marie Harris's type before. Jealous of her authority as the boss's secretary, resentful of every newcomer, and determined to make them uncomfortable. So it was only natural for her to resent someone like myself, a total stranger, who walked into the job of art director for one of the best advertising outfits in town, the William J. Farrell Agency. And even though Mr. Farrell had said temporary, I knew that I had the job. I knew it before the first campaign was over. I was in. And then, one night, the first of those funny little things began to happen. I was just taking off my hat and coat when I saw it there on my desk. A picture. A big framed picture of a dead girl, Jean Thornton. And written across the face of it, it said, Bill, darling, to the swellest guy and the swellest boss any girl ever had.
Admiring your predecessor, Miss Brandt?
Where did that come from?
I'm sure I haven't the faintest idea.
It wasn't there when I left last night. Somebody put it there.
Possibly some well-wisher, Miss Brandt. Some sincere well-wisher. As a sort of warning.
A warning of what? What are you driving at?
Miss Thornton and Mr. Farrell were quite close at one time.
And what's that got to do with me?
You know what happened, Miss Brandt, to Miss Thornton?
Look, Marie. Are you hinting that female art directors in this office have a habit of falling for the boss and then falling out the window?
I'm not hinting anything, Miss Brandt. You asked me for an explanation of how the picture got there. I've given you one. Doubtless it is far-fetched. Certainly it must seem so to you.
It's crazy.
Of course. Will that be all, Miss Brandt?
Listen, Marie. Let's you and I cut out the formality and let down our hair. Is there anything around here that I, ought to know?
I'm sure I don't know what you mean, Miss Brandt.
All right. The girl who used to have my job is dead. You've been hitting around enough about it. Is there anything that you know that I don't? Now, is that plain enough?
Quite. I can only say that I have not hinted at anything. I have perhaps engaged in certain idle speculations on matters which were better left as they are. That's all.
Okay, Marie. But the way things look now, I'm liable to be around here for quite a while.
Oh, I should think it likely.
And you and I ought to learn to get along.
You'll have no trouble getting along with me, Miss Brandt.
But you mean I may with him?
I can only say, Miss Brandt, as your sincere friend.
And well-wisher?
Yes. That you're working for a man who's subject to singularly strong enthusiasms. Sometimes these enthusiasms are apt to be carried to extremes. It is essential to appreciate this in dealing with Mr. Farrell.
I don't suppose this picture gag would be one of Mr. Farrell's little enthusiasms.
Under the circumstances, I should think it most unlikely.
And it wouldn't be one of yours, my little well-wisher.
No, Miss Brandt, it would not.
You couldn't help but believe her. She was so prim and proper. But I was determined to have a showdown anyway on the whole thing. My job and everything. I stalked into Bill Farrell's office with a picture in my hand and without benefit of knocking.
Oh, hello, Helen. Come in.
Something that appears to be from your desk seems to have popped up on mine. Here.
Where did you get that?
I just told you. On my desk. Your ever-tactful Marie has suggested that some well-wisher left it as a warning.
Oh, poor Jean. She gave me that when...
That explanation still seems to leave several questions unanswered, Mr. Farrell.
Look, Helen, you'll hear a lot of funny things in this office, like any other office. But take my word for it, they don't mean a thing. Just do your job the way you've been doing it, and you'll be all right.
How right is that?
You like the job, don't you?
I like the work. I haven't got the job.
Do you want it?
What do you think?
Well, you've certainly earned it, Helen.
Will you stop beating around the bush? Am I the new art director of the William J. Farrell Agency, or not?
All right, you are. You are hereby officially the new art director of the William J. Farrell Agency. From this day forward until...
Until what?
As long as you want the job, Helen.
Until death do us part, is what he'd started to say. I forgot it, though. I forgot it almost the moment he said it. For the next 24 hours, I was walking on air. It wasn't just a job. It was something even better. I knew Bill Farrell was falling in love with me. I knew that was just a matter of time, too. Morning, Marie. Mr. Farrell in?
Not yet, Miss Brand.
I wish you wouldn't be so formal with me, Marie. Everybody calls everybody else by their first names around here except you.
I'm used to more conventional methods in most things, Miss Brand.
Okay. Let me know when he comes in, though, will you? I want to see him.
Yes, Miss Brand.
Hello, Bill, darling. You hear it? Yes, it's that silly little thing you sent me from Mexico. I got it just this morning, darling. And so I wanted to tell you how sweet it was. And thank you this way.
Marie!
This person.
Marie!
Yes, Miss Brand.
Marie, I just heard her voice.
Whose voice, Miss Brand?
Hers. Jean's. Miss Thornton.
Why don't you lie down on the couch for a moment, Miss Brand? You've been working too hard lately, and I'll get you some water.
No, I tell you, I heard it. Right in this room.
In this room?
Yes, I know it was because there was that music box, too. That cigarette case of hers.
Oh, yes, I remember.
So do I. Because the last time I heard it was down there when they were picking up the things.
There's no one here now, Miss Brand. No one but you and me.
I know, but I heard it.
Was it speaking to you, this voice?
No, to Bill, to Mr. Farrell. Something personal.
Oh, I dare say. Have you ever looked in this closet by the door, Miss Brand?
Why, not especially, no.
I think there's probably a perfectly logical explanation of what you heard, Miss Brand. Yes, you see?
Oh.
A dictograph. It used to be Miss Thornton's. They use dictographs for everything in this office. They say it saves them $40,000 a year in stenographic help.
I see.
Something must have turned it on. Yes, there, you see? This box of pencils that has fallen off the shelf. It must have been that.
What turned it off, Marie?
I'm sure I don't know. It's quite simple, isn't it? Here's the switch.
Hello, Bill, darling. You hear?
Stop it!
Yes, Miss Brand.
And now get it out of here.
Certainly, Miss Brand. Is there any particular
I don't care what you do with it. Do anything you like. Throw it out the window.
What was that, Miss Brand?
Just get it out of here. And leave me alone. It's silly, I know that. It could have happened that way. It must have, just as Marie said. And all the time in the back of my mind was a lurking horror. A nameless thing that I felt hanging over that office and over me. Something about a girl who was dead. A girl who had plunged to her death from that same dark tower that was now my dark tower. Plunged screaming to her death only a few short weeks ago. The next night, I had to work late again to make up. I'd been out to supper, alone. I was conscious of the light still burning in Bill's office when I got back. I wasn't particularly anxious to see him just then. To be truthful, I was avoiding him, I suppose. I'd been in my office about an hour and a half when the phone rang. I thought it was strange because I was certain that I'd asked to have my night line disconnected. Out of habit, I picked it up to answer.
Hello, Bill. Bill, is that you? Bill!
Bill!
What, Helen? What is it?
Oh, Bill.
Helen, darling. Here, tell me. Baby, what is it? What's happened?
I heard her. Again.
Heard who, dear?
Jean Thornton.
Jean?
Yes, on the telephone. I know it was. I swear it...
But, darling, it couldn't have been.
Oh, Bill, I think I'm going mad.
Oh, Helen, darling, listen to me.
The picture, the dictograph. All right. But this...
Helen, look at me.
Yes, Bill.
I love you, Helen. You know that, don't you?
Yes. Oh, yes, darling, I do. I'm afraid.
But there's nothing to be afraid of, darling.
No, not that. I'm afraid because now I know that you're afraid.
I am.
Yes. You are, aren't you?
Helen,
Bill, please. You've got to tell me now.
Now, look, darling. I'm in a jam. A bad jam, an awful bad jam.
Yes,
but it's nothing that you have to worry about. It's nothing that isn't going to straighten itself out. It's nothing that I'm going to let affect us ever.
Bill, if it affects you, it does affect us.
Darling, you've got to trust me just a little longer.
Bill, I do. I will. But it's about Jean, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, it's about Jean.
And it was. She didn't just fall.
It was a terrible thing, Helen. Terrible. About as terrible as it could be. But, Helen, just remember this, darling. There's nothing to be afraid of. It'll all be over soon. Very soon.
Is that all? All you can tell me?
It's all I can tell you now. Oh, darling, I know what this is like for you, but please go home now and forget all about it.
How can I forget about it?
Well, try anyway. I've got some things to finish up here, and then I'll call for you, and we'll start making our plans. Oh, you will marry me, won't you, Helen?
Oh, Bill, yes.
Then everything's all right. Go on now, go on.
All right.
Good night for now, my dearest.
Good night. I went out. I didn't go home. I couldn't. I walked for miles, trying to think. But nothing made any sense, except that I was in love and in an agony of fear for what might happen to spoil it. And suddenly I realized that I had to know everything, now, tonight, whatever it was. So I went back to the office. Bill's light was still on, and I was just at the door when I stopped.
You're insane, crazy. Suppose somebody saw you and recognized you.
You sent me a message.
I did not. I gave no message to no one. Why do you lie to me like that?
I'm not going to.
Then
I heard it. I threw open the door, and she was standing there. Jean Thornton. A woman who was dead. When I came to, I was lying on the couch in Bill's office. At first it seemed perfectly natural, lying there and Bill sitting beside me, holding my hands, and her there, Jean, standing over by the desk talking to him.
Well, what are you going to do about her?
Do? What do you mean, do?
You're going to have to do something. She knows, doesn't she? Or she will when she snaps out of it.
I'm not going to do anything.
I suppose you're in love with her.
What if I am?
Because it makes a difference, my sweet, to me.
Bill?
Oh, darling.
Bill?
Darling, it's all right.
Is she really?
Yes. Yes, it's Jean.
But I saw her. That morning I saw her
That's
lying.
what you were supposed to think.
Then who?
Just a girl.
Oh, you might as well tell her. At least then she'll be in it as deep as the rest of us.
Jean, please.
Your boyfriend there had been dipping into the till about $250,000 worth of the client's money. My insurance and what the company had me insured for was just about enough to cover it. Like a fool, I agreed to it.
You suggested it.
I thought he was in love with me then.
But there was a girl.
A girl who worked in the office. No friends, no family. I fired her the day before, then got her to come up here that night. Another chance. Modeling, I said, with my clothes.
Cigarette case.
I dug up another one. I knew people would remember that.
Oh, Bill.
I told you it was bad.
Oh, darling, I don't care. I don't care what it was. As long as...
I think you'd better let me take charge of things now, Mr. Farrell.
Marie.
Please don't move. I'm quite prepared to shoot if I have to.
Marie, this is insane.
Is it? It's a shakedown.
What do you want, Marie?
Quite a lot, I'm afraid, Mr. Farrell. And how do you expect to get it? It's your word against ours, three of us.
You forget, Miss Thornton, that you are legally dead. As for the rest, you remember, Miss Brandt, that I said we used dictographs for practically everything in this office?
It was you that...
I tried my best to warn you, Miss Brandt. I'm truly sorry for you. Listen.
You might as well tell her. At least then she'll be in as deep as the rest of us.
Jean, please.
Your boyfriend there had been dipping into the till about $250,000 worth of the client's money. My insurance.
There is more, of course, but I'm sure that will suffice. Now, Miss Thornton, I think you and I had better have a little talk alone.
What do you want us to do, Marie?
I'll come to you later, Mr. Farrell. For the moment, I must ask you to step into the conference room behind you. You too, Miss Brandt.
Marie.
Please, Mr. Farrell, not now. I shall have to lock you in, but it will not be for long, I think. You know, of course, that there's no other way out except down.
We stood there, huddled together by the locked door, but we could hear nothing. till there was a sound like a window being opened, and then...
Oh, please!
Marie! 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 Marie!
Take him out now.
What have you done to her?
Miss Thornton has, shall we say, taken the easy way out.
You mean you forced her?
Very well, if you prefer. I'm sure it can make little difference now. You, Miss Brandt, I take it, are in love with Mr. Farrell, in spite of my warnings.
Yes.
Then I'm sure I can count on your silence, knowing the results to Mr. Farrell if you were to break it.
Yes, anything.
But I'm afraid your marital plans will have to wait.
What do you mean?
I think it's best this way for my own protection. Of course, if anything were to happen to Mr. Farrell, this way everything would come to me.
What would? How?
The firm and the money. You see, Miss Brandt, Mr. Farrell is going to marry me.
I looked at Bill. I knew he'd do as she said. What else? I turned and left the room without speaking. In my own office, I found the little automatic where lately I'd always kept it. When I came back, Bill was staring out the window, and Marie was making up her face from a little compact. They didn't even glance in my direction. I'm waiting for the police. I've been looking over the new layout. The Dulcet Soap campaign is particularly good. We did it together, Bill and I. The theme was a bride and groom.
Suspense.
Presented by Roma Wines, R-O-M-A, Roma, America's favorite wine. This is Ken Niles bringing back to our suspense audience the lovely, talented star of tonight's play, Ann Baxter. Ann, you did a marvelous job. We're sorry you weren't cast as a sweet young thing tonight, but then most of our suspense characters are pretty rugged, you know.
Well, I can't be the sweet young thing all the time, Mr. Niles.
Well, bad or good, to show you how we feel about you, Ann, here's a gift basket of Roma wines with the compliments of your host tonight, Roma Wine.
Thank you, Ken. And Roma, too. Let's see. Is there a Roma wine in my basket that goes with baked beans? It's a Saturday night favorite.
Oh, positively, Ann. For a combination fit for a king, try this delicious Roma California Burgundy with old-fashioned baked beans. It's a tempting treat. And whatever the dish, robust Roma Burgundy adds zest to everyday meals.
Ken, I could use you at home to help sell my cooking.
No need of that, Ann, when you serve Roma Burgundy. You'll find Roma Burgundy works wonders for the simplest dishes, brings out the natural flavor goodness of any hearty food. And remember, with Roma wines, you enjoy an important difference, an extra goodness in fuller bouquet, richer body, and better taste. Yes, that difference in Roma wines, that better taste, is the reason more Americans enjoy Roma than any other wine.
It certainly makes sense, Ken. Thank you, and good night.
Ann Baxter is currently being seen in the 20th Century Fox Darrell F. Zanuck production, The Razor's Edge. Tonight's suspense play was written by Eleanor Beeson. Next Thursday, same time, you will hear William Bendix as star of Suspense.
Produced and directed by William Spear for the Roma Wine Company of Fresno, California. Until next week, enjoy more suspense thrills as compiled in Suspense Magazine.
In the coming weeks, Suspense will present such stars as James Stewart, Eddie Bracken, Howard Da Silva, and others. Make it a point to listen each Thursday to Suspense, radio's outstanding theater of thrills.
Stay tuned for the thrilling adventures of the FBI in peace and war, following immediately over most of these stations. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
In just a moment, Suspense with Ida Lupino.
Phew, what a night.
Yeah, it's a scorcher, Dad.
You're lucky we thought of coming to the firehouse. If we'd had to sit around at that hen party your mother's giving. Hello, Mike.
Hello, Hab.
Say, you fellas want to put out a fire tonight. All you've got to do is turn the hoses on and squirt 'em anywhere.
Yep, it's hotter than Hades. We're all sitting here listening to the radio.
Dad, I wonder if they're listening to the Autolite show.
What are you hearing, Mike?
We're just switching to Autolite. Besides, we like their batteries, spark plugs, and ignition systems around here.
Everyone does. And everyone likes their show, Suspense.
Oh, here's the show.
Suspense. Autolite and its 60,000 dealers and service stations bring you radio's outstanding theater of thrills. Starring tonight, Miss Ida Lupino in a tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Today, everybody's switching to Autolite. And tonight, Autolite takes pleasure in presenting
Anton Leader's production of Ray Bradbury's remarkable story, Summer Night, starring Miss Ida Lupino.
Is the line still busy? I just don't see how it could still be.
Oh, it isn't the line, Miss McCauley. It's the circuit. I've been simply swamped all afternoon. I haven't been able to get a call through to the police station for over an hour, and the mayor's office has been busy.
Yes, I know. I'm sorry to trouble you, but it's terribly important.
Well, if you want to hang on, Miss McCauley, I'll try again in a minute.
Oh, all right.
It's been this way ever since the news got out about Pining Pool, Lavinia. You heard about it, I suppose.
Yes.
Oh, just a minute, Miss McCauley. I got another call. Yes, this is the operator. No, I'm sorry. That line is still busy. Yes, I'll call you just as soon as I can give you a connection. Oh, I'm sorry, Miss McCauley, but you see what I mean? Oh, dear.
Oh, Miss Welsh, by the way,
It was bad enough last week when they found that other poor girl, but this time the whole town is on its ear, and I can't say that I blame them, what with a maniac loose and nobody knowing who
Yes,
it
I
might
meant
be.
to ask you, Miss Welsh. Are they sure that Lavinia... I mean, that it was the same thing as the Webb girl last week?
Why, yes. Why, I thought you knew.
I just knew she'd been found.
Oh, goodness, yes. There was never any doubt about it. Whoever it was, he used a knife just like on the other girl. And then there was that same crazy cross on a forehead, you know, made with orange lipstick. That's why they're calling him, you know, the lipstick killer.
Oh, yes. As I thought it must be that. But I wasn't sure. I didn't know.
Oh, yes, they're looking all over the state for him by now. But, of course, they don't have much to go on. And the chances are that he's right here in this town anyway. Oh, I'll try to get your call for you now, Miss McCauley.
Thank you.
Oh. I'm sorry, Miss McCauley. That circuit is still busy.
But it can't...
Well, why don't I call you back when I get through? It shouldn't be very long.
All right. But please try to hurry it. It's really important. Terribly important. While I was waiting for the call, I went to the front door to start locking up. It was coming on evening, a warm summer evening, and ordinarily up and down the street the windows would be open, all but mine, and you'd hear the sound of a piano or a radio drifting out onto the still summer air, and people would be sitting in swings and hammocks on their front porches, enjoying the coolness at the end of the day. But not on this day. Not this evening. I locked my door, too. I went around the big, gloomy old house, checking all the windows, just like the others. Not that I needed to, really. They'd been locked ever since Father died. And he went away. All in that one terrible week nearly 4 years ago. Yes, they'd been locked, and I hadn't left the house more than a half a dozen times, and nobody had come here. Why should they? I didn't want to see them. Nor they me. I was the town's queer one. But all that was going to be different now. From now on, everything was going to be very, very different. Yes.
I've
Hello.
got your party now, Miss Macaulay. Go ahead, please.
Oh.
Hello?
Oh, Helen, is that you?
Yes, who's this?
It's Anna. Anna Macaulay.
Why, Anna. Why, what a surprise.
How have you been, Helen?
Oh, just fine. You know, there's nothing ever the matter with me. But how are you, Anna?
Oh, I'm well. You know, I've been living rather quietly these last few years.
Yes, I know. I mean, I'd heard.
It's been a long time, hasn't it, Helen?
Why, yes. I haven't heard your voice for, well, how long has it been?
Nearly 4 years.
Has it?
3 years and 11 months this week, to be exact.
Oh, that long has it? Well, it doesn't seem possible, and we were such good friends.
Helen, I hope you don't think. I mean, those last few times you called and I didn't answer.
Oh, darling, of course not. I knew how you must be suffering, your father passing on so suddenly that way, and you'd always been so close. I wouldn't have even bothered you at such a time, only that we'd been such good friends, and I thought maybe I could help. And then, of course, I heard later anyway that, well, that is,
Yes, I suppose you must have heard some rather strange things about me, Helen.
Oh, not strange, dear, no. But we all knew you wanted to be alone in your grief, and we respected that feeling naturally.
I know. But sometimes I've been afraid people didn't quite understand, though.
Of course they did. Well, darling, now that you're back in the world again, so to speak, you must come over and see me. I'm staying with my mother now, but you know that anyway.
Yes. Helen.
Yes, dear.
Helen, it wasn't just an accident, my calling you this way.
Well, I should hope not.
I want to ask you a favor. A tremendous favor.
Why, of course, darling, anything.
I want you to come over here to the house.
I should say I would. I'll try to make it Friday or early next week at the latest, just as...
No, I don't mean just sometime, Helen. I mean now. Right now. Right this minute.
Now?
Yes.
But, darling, I don't see how I can. I mean, I don't know what Mother's plans are.
Helen, you know I wouldn't ask if it wasn't serious.
Serious? What do you...
Please say you'll come.
Well, I'll try.
No, don't just try, Helen. Come. You've got to come.
Oh, darling, what is this? What can be so serious?
Maybe I'm being silly, but I think it's more than serious, Helen. I think it may be a matter of life and death.
For Suspense, Autolite is bringing you Miss Ida Lupino in Summer Night. Autolite's presentation of radio's outstanding theater of thrills, Suspense.
You know, Dad, boy, Mom would sure get a kick out of this.
Out of what, Billy?
We leave home because she's got the house full of women, and so far there aren't anything but women in tonight's Autolite show.
Well, if she's listening, we'll certainly hear about it when we get home from the firehouse. Oh, say, Mike, what's over on that workbench?
But over there? Mm-hmm. Oh, them's old batteries. We're replacing them with new Autolite stayfuls.
When your spark plug stutters, when your battery putters.
Switching to Autolite, eh, Mike?
No, we've been using Autolite for over 10 years now. You know, when you got to get out of here in 7 seconds after the alarm sounds, you got to have the surest, safest batteries there are. When we got to go, we go.
Yes, the new Autolite Stay Full battery is a great battery. Needs water only 3 times a year in normal car use. This greater liquid reserve practically eliminates one of the major causes of battery failure. Car owners tell us it's the greatest battery ever built. The greatest battery ever built. Money cannot buy a better battery for your car.
Yep, that's real battery know-how. Once water goes into an Autolite Stayful, it's like going into a camel. The drinks are few and far between.
Yeah, and even on nights as hot as this, you don't find the Autolite Stay Full at an old oaken bucket.
So, friends, see your friendly neighborhood Autolite battery dealer and order the new Autolite Stay Full battery for your car. It needs water only 3 times a year in normal car use. Remember, folks, Autolite means batteries.
Stay full batteries.
Autolite means spark plugs.
Ignition-engineered spark plugs.
Autolite means ignition system.
The lifeline of your car.
Autolite brings back to our Hollywood soundstage Miss Ida Lupino as Anna in Summer Night, a tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
A matter of life and death, I told her. I knew Helen would come to see me after that. It would be strange seeing her again. Not that we'd ever quarreled. She never even suspected, of course. But after that day when he went away with her, I'd simply put her out of my life and never thought of her again. Or to be strictly truthful, I'd thought of her a great deal. But in a rather different way than I had before when she'd been my best friend. And now she was coming to my house again. After all these years. It should be interesting. Quite like a surprise party for both of us.
Anna, darling.
Helen, come in.
Oh, it's so nice to see you.
It's good to see you again, Helen.
Why, you haven't changed a bit. You don't look a day older. Now, tell me all about it. I can't stay but a few minutes. Ted Barton drove me over. You remember Ted.
Oh, yes.
And he's got to be back before 7, but never mind that now. Darling, what is the matter?
Helen, I'm frightened.
Frightened? Of what?
I'm afraid I'm going to be killed.
Going to be killed?
Yes, tonight.
But, darling...
You see, I used to know poor Lavinia. I used to know her quite well. And the other girl, well, I didn't know her, but it happened to her right near here, in the little woods just beyond the tracks.
Anna, please, dear, what on earth makes you think anything like that could happen to you? You're perfectly safe if you don't go out. Lock the doors.
No, I'm not. I'm all alone here, Helen. And there's been someone prowling at night.
A man?
Last night he tried to get in.
Are you sure?
I heard him trying the doors, the windows.
Well, did you call the police?
No, I was afraid to. Oh, Helen, I didn't know who to turn to but you. Everyone thinks I'm crazy anyway.
Oh, Anna, dear, that's ridiculous. Well, we'll call them right now.
No, it'll be all right after tonight. I know it will. Please, I just want you to stay with me tonight.
Stay with you?
Please, Helen, just this one night. I can't ask anyone else. I don't have any friends anymore.
But, darling, I don't even have any nightclothes.
Oh, I'd already thought of that, Helen. I have everything you need for tonight.
Well, I don't have anything for the morning. No face cream, not even a
Why
toothbrush.
worry about that now? Maybe neither of us will even be here by morning.
Oh.
So she said she'd stay. Went out and told Ted Barton. Ted Barton. That was typical of Helen. Only 2 weeks back from Cleveland, and already she had the county's most eligible bachelor squiring her around in his car. But that was going to be different, too. I fixed a little supper for both of us, and then we tried all the doors and windows. And then there was nothing to do but sit and talk to her until it was time to go to bed.
No more, thank you.
Afraid it will keep you awake, Helen?
I'm afraid I won't need coffee to keep me awake. Anna, is it true? I mean what they say about these murders.
Is what true?
Well, I mean...
You've been out in the world, Helen, more than I have lately. You should know more than I.
Well, all I meant was... Well, you seem so frightened. I thought you might have heard something special.
No.
Is it true about the lipstick?
Why not?
Oh, it sounds so crazy. I thought it might be just something the newspapers made up.
There was a cross on their foreheads. In lipstick. Orange lipstick.
Anna, you do know something.
Don't be ridiculous, Helen. How could I?
But lipstick, Anna. Do you suppose perhaps it isn't a man at all? It's a woman. Oh, I'm sorry, dear. Did I do that?
No. Well, come along, Helen. It's time to go to bed.
Yes, I suppose we might as well.
You don't mind sleeping in the same room with me, do you?
Why, of course not, dear. Oh, shouldn't you leave on a light downstairs?
No. Didn't do any good last night.
Oh. Well, I must say I don't blame you for being a little frightened, staying here all alone. It's rather a gloomy old place, isn't it?
Oh, I don't think so. It's always been like this. It's the way Father liked it.
What about your mother?
I hated my mother.
Oh, Anna.
Well, it's true. Why not say it?
But your own mother.
What does that matter? Everyone has to have someone to hate, Helen. Enough to kill them sometimes.
Oh, Anna, I don't think that's true. How can you say that everyone...
Well, this is our room.
Why, it's
what?
It's charming. It's so... it's so different from the rest of the house.
Yes. This was to be my bridal room. If I'd ever married.
Darling, I didn't know... Well, I didn't know you'd ever thought...
That was a long time ago. What's the news of Charles?
Charles? Well, there just isn't any. You knew we were separated, didn't you?
Yes. What was the trouble, Helen?
Oh, I don't know. After the first year, he simply became impossible, that's all. You remember, even as a child, he was sometimes wild.
And strange. Oh, yes. Yes, he and I were always the queer ones.
Why, whatever do you mean?
Oh, strange, different, a little apart from all of you somehow. Not quite right, I think they say about me now.
Oh, Anna, you're imagining that. No one ever said such a thing.
No?
Of course not.
What about Charles?
Nothing. He just left, that's all. Haven't even heard from him in 6 months.
Are you sure it was all his fault, Helen? Perhaps if he married someone else.
Oh, you know there was never anyone else for Charles. That's the funny part of it. Of course, he liked other girls. He liked you.
Yes.
Well, you're certainly lucky he didn't marry you. I don't know what happened towards the end. It just went from bad to worse. It got so I hated the very sight of him.
I told you. Everyone had to have someone to hate.
Oh, I didn't really mean
Are
that.
you sure, Helen? Haven't you ever hated anyone?
Oh, perhaps as a little girl I thought I did.
You hated me, didn't you?
Why, darling,
There were some times when I hated you, too.
Oh, I don't believe it. Children can't really...
Can't they? When an ugly little girl like me sees a pretty little girl like you getting everything she wants all through her life.
Well, not exactly everything.
You could always twist the teachers around your finger. Later it was the same with the boys. And finally, Charles. Just because you were pretty.
Oh, maybe I was a little prettier than you, dear, but you were always the clever one.
Yes. Yes, I was the clever one.
Well, I suppose we really should go to bed. Why, Anna, look at this. I didn't know you used lipstick.
I don't. It's just one a young cousin of mine left here several months ago.
Oh, well, that's funny. You know what color it is, Anna?
What color is it, Helen?
It's orange.
No. Helen wasn't very clever. It amused me to watch her trying to think. Putting two and two together. And not being able to because she was afraid of her own conclusions. Because she was essentially a hypocrite, like everyone else. If she hadn't been, it might have saved her life. It was sometime in the middle of the night. I don't know exactly what time, because it didn't matter. But Helen was sleeping as soundly as a silly child when I went over to the side of her bed and began to shake. Helen, wake up.
Oh, what is it?
Shh, don't make a sound.
Anna, what's the matter?
He's in the house downstairs.
Who?
I don't know. Whoever it was last night, he's gotten in somehow.
Are you sure?
I heard him. Been listening for the last 10 minutes.
Oh, Anna, what are we going to do?
We've got to get out of the house before he starts upstairs.
But how can we? He'll hear us. We'll be caught.
No, we'll go down the back stairs and out through the kitchen. We can go through the back lot, over the tracks to Judge Brown's house. It's not far, but we've got to hurry.
Oh, Anna, I'm frightened. What if he hears us?
He won't if we're careful and if we hurry. The door between the kitchen and the front of the house is locked.
Are you sure he isn't in the
He's
kitchen?
in the front, I tell you. I heard him. Now get up, Helen. We've got to go right now.
All right.
Hold my hand.
Yes.
While I unlock the door, the back stairs are just to the right after we get out in the hall.
Oh, Anna.
Shh. Come along. Hold on to my hand and try not to make any noise. Here are the stairs. Just follow me.
Yes, all right.
Watch out. That's the last step.
Yes, I've got it.
We're in the kitchen now. Can you see anything?
No, it's too dark.
Let's stand right there. Right where you are and don't move.
Where are you going?
There's something I want to get before we leave.
Anna, please.
Shh.
What are you doing?
I've got it now. A knife. Here, take my hand again.
All right. A knife?
Shh, this way.
Oh, I don't think I can for a minute.
Oh, come along, Helen. In a little while, it'll all be over. As we hurried down the path, I kept thinking of her there behind me. So frightened now. I had to keep myself from laughing out loud. It was really funny. She'd always been so confident before. At school and later at the parties we used to go to. She'd been the confident one, and I'd been frightened. While she slowly poisoned my life. While she quietly and deliberately stole everything I'd ever wanted. Even Charles. But it was different now.
That must be the 2 o'clock local. The other side of town.
Yes.
Which way now?
Straight ahead, through the grove of trees.
Anna, isn't it here somewhere that they found that girl?
Yes. Why?
Oh, Anna, I can't go through there.
Helen, come along, don't be silly.
Do we have to?
Of course we do.
Anna, what was that?
What?
Didn't you hear it?
No.
I was positive I heard something.
Now who's imagining things, Helen?
Oh, let's hurry.
No. We're going to stop here.
Stop. But why?
Can't you guess? Even now, Helen.
Oh, Anna. Don't.
She didn't make a sound. I think she'd fainted even before I struck. She died without ever realizing why I did it. I made the cross on the forehead with the orange lipstick. It seemed such a silly thing as I was doing it. But of course I had to. And then I dragged the body off the path and started home. At the railroad tracks, I turned south a few yards to where they crossed the river and tossed the knife and the lipstick over the bridge. And watched them disappear into the muddy stream below. Not that it was really necessary. No one would ever think of questioning me. They would all, of course, assume that the lipstick killer had struck again. And then suddenly my heart was in my mouth. From the path ahead of me, cutting sharply across the moonlight, was a shadow. The shadow of a man.
Can I help you?
I
didn't mean to frighten you. I just thought you must be in some kind of trouble to be out at... Oh, Anna. Oh, it's Anna Macaulay.
Charles. Oh, Charles. You did frighten me.
Well, if you insist on running around town at 2 a.m. in your night
Oh,
clothes.
Charles. Charles, this is really too much of a coincidence. Why, I didn't know you were anywhere near Boone Center.
Theoretically, I'm not just passing through. Business trip. Missed the 2 a.m. local. So I thought I'd kill the time waiting for the milk train by looking the old burg over again. What's your alibi?
My what? Oh, well, that's what I meant about a coincidence. I was looking for Helen.
For Helen?
No wonder you're surprised, Charles. But it's really very simple. First, there were these, well, what the newspapers have been calling the lipstick murders. I suppose you've heard about it.
I've read something about it.
Well, I suppose I was silly, but I got terribly nervous, living alone in that big house. I asked Helen to stay with me. And then in the middle of the night, she got frightened and said she couldn't stay another minute and rushed out to Judge Brown's house.
How typical of Helen.
Yeah, well, then after I thought about it, I got worried about her and went to look for her. But I guess she must have gotten there all right. I didn't find her anywhere.
You're not alone in that big house now, are you, Anna?
Why, yes, I thought you knew, Charles. My father died.
Oh, I'd forgotten.
Well, silly to be standing here, isn't it? If you've got to wait for a train, why don't you come back to the house with me? I'll fix you some coffee or something. Wouldn't that be nicer?
Yes, that would be nice. That would be very nice.
I could hardly believe my good luck. Charles, of all people. It was as though he'd come back to me. Almost as though he'd known and come back to me just at the right moment. So there we were, making coffee in the kitchen and talking over old times. Oh, dear, where is that opener for the evaporated milk? I never can find it.
Oh, here. I'll open it with my knife. Just make a couple of holes in it.
My, isn't that a rather dangerous weapon to carry around just to make holes in tin cans?
Oh, it has other uses.
There we are.
That tastes good.
Charles, I was terribly sorry to hear about you and Helen.
Me and Helen?
That you'd separated, I mean.
Is that what she called it?
Well, she said that you'd left her.
Helen always had a quaint way of putting things.
Didn't you? You don't still love her, do you?
Love her? Didn't she tell you where I'd been?
I know, not exactly.
I'd been in a home, Anna. A rest home, as they call it. It was Helen who put me there.
Put you there?
I'm afraid committed is the word. See, Helen thought I was crazy.
Oh, Charles.
I only got out a couple of weeks ago. I imagine they're still looking for me.
You escaped?
I had to.
Oh, Charles, how dreadful for you.
As a matter of fact, I've been looking for Helen. There was something I wanted to give her.
But couldn't you find her?
No. I thought I had a couple of times. But it wasn't Helen after all.
What was it you wanted to give her, Charles?
This.
Lipstick.
Yes. A frightful color, isn't it? Orange. Are you sure you're not Helen?
I heard the doctors talking a little while ago. They say I won't live through the night. But I don't care. Oh, it's been such a glorious day. The happiest since I can remember. People have been calling on me whom I haven't seen for years. They say I saved the town. I must have screamed. I don't remember. So they caught poor Charles. And for the first time in my life, I'm a really important person. I wonder when they'll find Helen.
Thank you, Ida Lupino, for a splendid performance on Suspense.
In just a moment, we will again hear from Miss Ida Lupino.
Gee, what a show. I was sweating and it wasn't from the heat either. What a show.
Hey, that's us.
Gee, Dad, a fire.
Hey, out of the way, son. Where's the fire, Mike?
Going to 28th of May.
Hey, they were out of here in 7 seconds. Almost before they stepped on the starter.
Mike sure wasn't fooling about those Autolite stay-full batteries, was he, Dad?
No, sir.
Talk about pistol packing action. Switch to Autolite stay-fulls, and boy, you got it.
When your spark plug stutter, now don't you try to putter. Switch to Autolite. When your starter's just a grinder, why, it's a battery reminder. Switch to Autolite. Keep your auto right. Just switch to Autolite. Autolite. Switch to Autolite. For spark plug life and action. For a battery whose attraction is ignition satisfaction. Switch to Autolite.
And now, here again is Miss Ida Lupino.
It's always a great pleasure to appear on Suspense. And as a listener, I'm looking forward to some outstanding programs on this new Suspense series with stars like Charles Lawton, Agnes Moorehead, Van Johnson, Madeline Carroll, and Ann Southern. And next week, I'll be tuned in to hear Douglas Fairbanks Jr. in a gripping suspense story entitled Deep into Darkness. I know you'll want to hear it, too, on
Suspense.
Ida Lupino may soon be seen in Darrell F. Zanuck's 20th Century Fox production, Roadhouse. Tonight's suspense play was written by Robert L. Richards from an original story by Ray Bradbury. The music was composed by Lucien Moraweck and conducted by Lud Gluskin. The entire production was under the direction of Anton M. Leader. Next Thursday, same time, you will hear Douglas Fairbanks Jr. in Deep into Darkness. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Suspense. Tonight, transcribed, Autolite brings you Miss Joan Crawford in The 10 Years, a suspense play produced and directed by Anton M. Leader. And now, Autolite presents Joan Crawford in a tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Everyone is so good to me. I like being here. But some of the others don't, I guess. Do you hear? They scream sometimes like that in the night. Maybe they scream because they remember things. But I remember things, too. Especially when people come out from town to see me, to bring me things. But there's nothing that I want. They can't bring back my sister. My beautiful sister Adele. They came today, and with them they brought back memories of Adele. When we were children. The night that Mother died. The night we made the promise.
Don't cry anymore, Adele. I'm afraid, Clara. We're alone. You're not alone. But if something happened to you... Nothing's going to happen to me. I'm going to take care of you. But that's what Mother said. And now she's left us, too. But, Adele, Mother didn't know that she wouldn't have left us if she could have helped it. Promise me you won't die, Clara. And that whatever I do, you'll do. And that you'll never leave me. I promise. And we'll be together always and forever. Always and forever. I promise.
And for years I kept that promise. Adele and I were as close as anyone could be. We had few friends, but I didn't mind as long as she was happy. But sometimes I was frightened at the way she clung to me after we were grown. I was afraid of what would happen to her in case anything ever happened to me. And then something did happen. I met Douglas Foley. Adele liked him until she realized that I'd fallen in love with him. Then she hated him in a childish, vicious way. He tried to win her over, but it was no good. And then he asked me to marry him. And I said yes. That night, after he'd gone, Adele was waiting for me in my room. Adele?
Clara! Douglas told me.
Adele, you're so white. You're ill.
But you promised me.
But Adele, I'm not leaving you. You're going to live with us.
No, it won't be the same. You promised always and forever.
But we were children, Adele.
You promised we'd be together always and forever.
But Adele, you see,
Clara, if you marry him, I'll never speak to you again.
But we were married. And we believed that Adele would forgive us in time. But she didn't. She refused to see us, and letters went unanswered. Then when we learned that my husband's new job was to take us to Europe, our first thought was of Adele. If she would only go with us. But when we drove to her house, she refused even to come to the door, and we were forced to sail without her. My son, Doug, was born in Europe, and I wrote Adele a long letter telling her about him. But the letter was returned unopened. When Doug was just 10, we returned to America. I went directly from the station to Adele's house. She was working in the garden when we drove up. I was shocked at her appearance. Her hair had turned almost white, and there was a strange look about her. I sent Doug to the gate to introduce himself. She looked at him in a puzzled manner. Then she saw us sitting in the car, and she turned and walked into the house. The next thing I remember was that day 1 month after my return home when I was put on trial for murder. For my husband's murder.
Mrs. Foley, will you tell us again what happened the night of your husband's murder?
My husband was working in the garden all day. When it began to grow dark, I called him in. But he insisted that he had something to finish. I called him several times after that, and then I became irritated and I gave up. I had my dinner alone and I went up to my bedroom.
Then you do admit that you quarreled with him the night of the murder?
We didn't quarrel. I was irritated, but I said nothing to my husband.
I see. Your husband's death was caused by a deep, narrow wound in the vicinity of the heart. It is the opinion of this court that the instrument used might have been an ice pick. Mrs. Foley, have you any other ideas as to what might have inflicted this wound?
No.
Had your husband any enemies, Mrs. Foley?
No. And so I was acquitted that day because of insufficient evidence. I thought Adele would come to see me during those awful days, but she didn't. I saw her in the courtroom, but she never looked my way. I believe it was about 2 months after the trial that my son and his friend Roy went on an all-day hiking trip to the beach. They were late getting back. It was almost dark when I saw Roy coming up the street. He was alone, and he was running.
Mrs. Foley! Mrs. Foley!
Roy, where's Doug?
He's down at the beach. With her.
With whom?
Your sister.
My sister? Oh, for heaven's sake, Roy, will you tell me what this is all about?
Well, you see, Mrs. Foley, Doug and I went down to the beach.
It seemed that Roy and Doug had forgotten to take along their drinking water, and they hadn't missed it until they'd come to a very deserted strip of the beach.
Maybe we can get some water at that little house over there. Funny place for a house, isn't it? Yeah. Come on. Looks like nobody lives here. All the better. And just drink out that faucet in the yard. We won't have to ask nobody. Come on. Sure run down, ain't it? Maybe the faucet isn't working. The garden's all dead. Sure it's working, see? Someone's just plain lazy then. Or maybe no one lives here. Well, sure they do. There's a mailbox. Hey, maybe there's a name on it. Look. Miss Adele Norris. That's Mom's sister. Yeah? Well, let's drop in and see her. She wouldn't even know who I was. You could tell her, couldn't you? Say, maybe she'd give us some cake or something. No, she's mad at me and Mom. Come on, let's get out of here. Say, Doc, look at all those dead leaves on the porch. Let's have a look around. No, she might come out. Oh, she can't hurt you, can she? Let's peek in the window. No, Rod. Look, Doug. The place is all upset. It's all dirty and everything. Let's look in the rest of the windows. There's no one around. Here's the kitchen. Hey, look at all the dirty dishes piled up. Say, maybe my aunt's sick. Look. Someone's coming to the window. Oh!
What do you want?
We wanted to see if you were all right.
Go away.
Don't you recognize me?
No.
Are you sick?
No.
I'm your nephew, Douglas Foley.
Go away, whoever you are.
I'd like to help you.
Go away, I said.
Mother wouldn't want me to leave you here like this.
Who is your mother?
I told you. Don't you remember? She's your sister.
I have no sister. My sister died when I was 18.
Roy, you go home and get my mother. My aunt's sick. I'll climb through this window, and I'll see if there's anything I can do.
You stay out of this house.
Doug, let's both go. She doesn't want you here. She's sick. You go for my mother, and hurry.
If you come into this house, you'll be sorry. If you dared. Did you say your name is Douglas Foley?
Yes, that's right.
Douglas Foley is dead. Forever and ever.
No, don't you see? The one who died was my...
Douglas Foley became between two sisters. And then he died.
Yeah, but I'm trying to tell you. My mother and
but
you...
if he isn't dead, then I guess he'll have to die again. That's it. Yes. You'll have to die again. You'll have to die again. You'll have...
Look, you're sick. You need help.
I'm sick?
Yes. Don't you want me to come in?
Yes. Come in. Douglas Foley?
For
Suspense, Autolite is bringing you Joan Crawford in radio's outstanding theater of thrills, Suspense. And now, Autolite brings back to a Hollywood soundstage Miss Joan Crawford as Clara in The 10 Years by Mel Dinelli. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
You see how clearly I remember things? I remember so well the horror of that moment when Doug's little friend finished telling me how he had left Doug there alone with my sister Adele. And I even remember what Roy said at the end.
So I came back to tell you, Mrs. Foley, on account of Doug made me. Now I wish I hadn't left him there with her. I know she's your sister and all, but I saw her face when she came to the window. She looked awful, Mrs. Foley. She looked awful crazy.
I followed Roy's directions, and I went by foot north along the ocean. I must have walked a good mile before I came to the house. The front door was standing open. There was a lamp burning on the table. Adele. She lay on the bed. I couldn't see her very clearly by the candlelight, but I could see that she was fully dressed. Her hair was undone, and it spilled down over the pillow. For a moment, I thought she was dead.
What do you want?
Adele.
What do you want?
It's me, Clara. Where's Douglas?
He's dead.
Adele!
Your husband is dead,
I don't mean my husband. I mean my son. Where is he?
He was murdered with a long shot.
Be still! You don't know what you're saying. Where is my son?
I haven't seen him.
You have. He was here, I know that.
I haven't seen him.
Yes, you have. Try and remember. Where is he?
I don't know.
Yes, you do know. What have you done to him?
Was he your son?
Yes, Adele. Please.
I hated him.
I know. Where is he, Adele?
He went away.
Where? Where did he go?
He went to the village for a doctor.
Are you telling me the truth?
Yes.
How long ago did he leave?
I don't remember.
Will you stop questioning me? Can't you see that I'm sick? I tell you he went for a doctor! Why do you come here, Clara? After 10 years.
I've come to help you.
I don't need your help!
Adele, did Doug really go for the doctor?
You think I'm lying?
I don't know. But if he isn't back soon, I'm going for the police.
The police? Those fat fools. I'm so sick, Clara.
Oh, no. I'm going to take your things off, Adele. You'll be more comfortable. Then when the doctor comes, if he comes...
Don't you touch me!
You're sick, Adele. Let me take your things off.
No, no! Can't you leave me alone? Leave me alone! How do you know what's good for me after all these years? I'm in pain, Clara. I have a heavy pain here by my heart. When I'm tightly laced, I can almost bear it.
All right, darling. We'll leave it till the doctor comes.
Will the doctor help me, Clara?
Of course he will.
Douglas Foley came between two sisters.
Oh, dear.
He worked in the garden, bending down low.
I'm so tired, Clara.
I know. Try and rest, Adele. Close your eyes.
He was working in the garden, and I was on my way home. I saw him there, Clara. He looked the same after 10 years, because he had your strength to draw from.
But I was alone. I had grown old.
And he had stayed young. Young.
And then she seemed to doze off. Her breathing was so labored. And I thought, perhaps she'll rest more easily if I undress her. And I went over to the bed. She was wearing a corset. I reached over and I began to unhook it. She started mumbling something in her sleep.
You broke your promise.
Always and forever, you had said.
But she didn't wake up.
Always.
And I finally managed to take her corset off. But as I went to place it on a chair, I noticed something sticking out of the material. At first, I thought it was a broken stay, but it was round, and one end was sharp. I looked closer. It was a steel knitting needle. A long steel one. And there was rust on it. Or was that brown stain rust? Adele had concealed a knitting needle, and there was proof of what I guess I'd always known, that Adele had murdered my husband. I dropped the needle to the floor. Then something caught my eye. There was a hand sticking out from beneath the bed. It was white and still. It was a child's hand. I fell to my knees. Oh, Doug! And just as I reached out for him, I felt a sharp blow on the back of my head. And I fell unconscious. I dreamed that Adele and I were children again, and that she was laughing, and we were playing an old game of ours where we tied each other up with our bathrobe cords, and then we waited for a knight in armor to rescue us. And then I think it was the odor of kerosene that brought me to. The room was filled with it. Oh, my head was pounding. I couldn't seem to focus my eyes. I tried to raise myself to my feet, but I couldn't seem to move my arms, my legs. Suddenly, I realized why. I was tied with a bathrobe cord. I was a child again. Adele and I were playing our games again. My husband and everything that had happened between Adele and me had been nothing but a bad dream. Oh, a feeling of relief swept over me. And suddenly, I heard footsteps. And the door creaked slowly open. And then I knew that what had happened had not been a dream. For Adele stood there in the doorway. Not Adele, the child who would rescue me, but Adele with gray hair who hadn't spoken to me for all those years. She wore a long dressing gown. She was barefoot, her long hair streaming about her shoulders. And there was a vacant, stupid smile on her face. She carried a bucket in her hand, and the odor of kerosene filled the room. She didn't seem to notice me as she went past me. She threw the liquid from the bucket onto the bed. Adele! No, Adele! But she paid no attention to me as she left the room again. I struggled wildly, but it was no use. Oh, I was tied securely, and then I saw a still figure on the bed. It was Doug. Oh, his face was so white. He was unconscious, and there was a deep gash at the side of his head. And then Adele came back into the room. She had filled that bucket to the brim, and she walked toward the bed again.
Clara?
Adele, untie me.
Untie you? Why?
Adele, listen to me.
This is your son, Clara.
Yes, Adele, untie me.
We were looking for him, and he was here all the time.
Please, untie me, Adele.
I never knew your son. For years, I never knew him. How old is he, Clara?
He's only 10. He's just a boy. Adele, you're sick. Untie me and we'll go for a doctor.
You want me to be well, Clara?
Yes, untie me.
Are we friends again, Clara?
Yes, we're friends. I want to help you.
But I can't forget the 10 years, Clara. I must wash those years away before we can really be friends again.
Adele, forget those years. Let me help you. Untie me.
No. We can't forget them, Clara. We must wash them away. That's what I was doing. I was washing away the years. Your husband's gone. Your son is all that remains of him. Then we can be sisters again.
You don't know what you're doing. Untie me, Adele.
But this isn't water that I have in this bucket.
No, you see, you're sick.
I put into the lamps to make them burn.
No!
Perhaps I could burn away the years.
Oh!
That would be better.
Oh,
much
no!
better.
No! no, Adele, for the love of heaven, untie me!
Burn away these years that remain on the bed.
No, Adele!
If I could do that, with this candle, then you and I could really be friends again. Like when Mother was alive. We could be sisters again. Always and forever.
We're sisters now, Adele.
You're lying. We're not sisters.
Adele, listen to me! We're children. And you've tied me with this cord. And now you must untie me. Like you used to do when you left me too long and I cried.
You're lying. We're not sisters and we haven't been for years. And now I'm going to punish you for lying. Just as Mother used to punish us when we were children.
Then she started walking unsteadily toward me. A lighted candle in one hand, the bucket in the other. The liquid slopping over her dressing gown as she walked.
Clara! Do you remember the time Mother washed out my mouth with soap when she caught me in a fib? That's what I'm going to do to you now. Or perhaps it would be better if I burned you. No! Scream, Clara. Awaken your precious son. We mustn't waken.
Adele, untie me. I promise you that I'll take Doug and we'll go away. You'll never have to see us again.
No, Clara.
And she kept moving toward me, holding the lighted candle close to her breast.
You mustn't ever lie to me again, Clara.
Adele, you're ill. You don't know what you're doing.
Wash away the years. Burn away the years.
Oh, suddenly, I saw a tiny flicker of flame on her breast. The frilly dressing gown. She had held the candle too close. Her entire dressing gown was a mass of flames. It spread swiftly to her hair. In a moment, she was a blazing torch. And the odor of burning filled the room. I could see her face. Surprised and contorted with pain. She turned and looked towards the bed a second, the bucket flaming in her hand. But then she went screaming out the door and towards the sea. Mrs. Foley. Yes?
You mustn't scream like that.
I wasn't screaming. That was my sister, Adele.
Yes, I know. Try not to think about it, Mrs. Foley.
You knew my sister was burned to death, didn't you, Mrs. Willard? Oh, she was so very beautiful.
Yes, I know. Try and rest. Is there anything I can get you before I go to bed?
No, thank you.
Well, go to sleep then.
I will. Good night.
Good night, and pleasant dreams.
Was that my sister, Mrs. Willard?
No, Mrs. Foley. It's one of the others.
Oh. They scream because they remember things.
Yes, I suppose they do. Good night.
Good night. I remember things, too. I remember.
Promise me you'll never leave me, Clara, and that whatever I do, you'll do. I promise. Always and forever.
Always and forever. I promise.
Thank you, Joan Crawford, for a magnificent performance. Now here again is Miss Crawford.
I want to thank Tony Leader and his wonderful cast of actors, especially Lorene Tuttle, who played my sister, for helping me to make my appearance on Suspense so very pleasant. Like all of you, I am a great Suspense fan, and I'm looking forward to hearing next week's story. It's another gripping study in
Suspense!